let's see, go this route. Okay, so welcome everybody. We have a few people joining us, and there was a lot of folks who were not able to, so we're recording it just to be able to share this with them and kind of have it in the archives. I think it'll be some pretty valuable information. So yeah, welcome everybody. This is sort of one of the first events in the newer iteration of Entrepreneurs Association. It's a group that's been around for quite some time, affiliated with John Carroll, and I have the privilege of, in some way, shape, or form, being a leader and helping guide the organization. And in this newest iteration, we're trying to kind of reimagine it to be something that sort of intentionally tries to grow generations of entrepreneurial leaders and students throughout Northeast Ohio, and hopefully beyond, as students leave and spread their wings with a sense of sort of giving back, giving first, and taking ideas and turning them into legacies. And we do a variety of things. It's events like these and kind of learning events like these. And then we'll also start doing more social things to meet each other and network, and having members work a little more intentionally with students through some mentorship and other kinds of opportunities to share what it is that you all do and know and experiences you've had, and try to add some flavor and depth and meaning to the students' education beyond what they're experiencing on campus. So we appreciate everybody showing up, and those who can watch and share any thoughts or comments. We also appreciate that. So we have 3 students who've been generous enough to join us and be willing to share their opinions and experiences. So I will let them introduce themselves, a little bit of where you guys from, what are you majoring in, and any thoughts or plans you have about life after college. So Sarah, you want to go first?
Yeah, I was going to say I can take it. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah McAllister. I am from Pittsburgh, PA, so I'm not from Cleveland, but learning the area now that I'm living a little bit off campus. I'm a communications major focusing in integrated marketing, and I also minor in entrepreneurship and leadership development. This upcoming summer, I'm an accounts intern for Vivid Front, which is in downtown Cleveland. It's a marketing agency. I'm also doing their marketing internship in the summer. So pretty excited. Plans for after graduation. I'm actually currently writing my own book about making lifestyle changes in order to cope with anxiety. So I'm working on that, and hopefully that will be a portion of my plans after graduation. So I'm really into advocacy, speaking, writing. I work closely with Doan in that sense, doing Dare to Dream. So if you've seen my face before, it's potentially on a Dare to Dream video or at an entrepreneurship event. So it's a little bit about me and my passions, and I'll let Caleb take it from there.
Hi, everybody. I am Caleb Correa. I'm from Toledo, Ohio. So we are experiencing probably similar weather back home. And yeah, I have built my own major. Actually, I'm studying entrepreneurial business is what I've kind of coined it, but it's a combination of entrepreneurship experiences with some economics and communications. So that's been a fun journey to be a part of. I also run cross country and track here at John Carroll, and then also I'm a part of, as I'm repping the hat, the John Carroll Food Buggy, and I've had the privilege to be a part of that team and run it as actually the CEO. It's a student-run venture with a social mission to fight hunger amongst the homeless, I should say. And so that's a little bit about what I do. After college, I'm really looking for, a variety of things. I'm interested in traveling a bit and just kind of experiencing the world, and then getting into the job market to really learn some valuable skills. I'm interested in sales side of things, especially, and I have an aspiration to start my own business one day, which I definitely believe that I will do. And then Olivia, to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Liv. I'm a junior here at John Carroll. My major is MHR, and then I am also minoring in leadership and entrepreneurship. On campus, I'm president of my sorority currently, which is really fun. A lot of great leadership experience there. And then this coming summer, I'll be working in the DE&I department at the Fed. So that's also very exciting. And then after graduation, I'm pretty open to try pretty much anything at this point. Obviously would love to stay in HR, but I'm willing to learn and grow in whatever like life takes me to.
Great. Well, thank you to the three of you for spending some time with us and kind of being open and honest about your perspective. The whole point of this really is having a conversation with students who are thinking about looking for getting a little more active in planning for life after college. We have a lot of EA members and other folks I engage with in the business community who are always interested in how do I be more effective and more efficient in attracting talent. And so we thought we'd bring some talent in and share some of their perspective, and maybe that helps to enlighten folks about strategies they take or channels they use or anything like that. So we had a few questions, that I haven't prepped them, but I've let them know just so they don't get caught too off guard. And then, I'll have a little conversation with them and then open it up for Q&A, anything that anybody else would like to ask or is curious about. So you can hold your questions till afterwards, or if you wanted to, if your brain works like mine and loses things very quickly, you can kind of put them in the chat here, and I'll be able to pick those up, when we get to the Q&A part. So, all right. So to dive in, first thing is I think most importantly to this conversation is learning a little bit about what you all look for in an employer. So as you're looking for possible careers and different kinds of opportunities, how do you go about evaluating those, and what kind of things do you look for? I'll leave it up to you to jump in and see who can answer first.
I can start just because we're kind of already going in that order. But I recently was going through the internship job search type scenario because I'm graduating a semester early. So I think that when I'm looking for an employer, I kind of did that a lot this past year. So I kind of noticed some things that I liked and didn't like throughout that process. I think one thing that really sticks out for me is culture, because coming from John Carroll, you have a lot of professors that really take a liking to you, can really help you and grow in that sense. So I think a mixture of culture and mentorship. I think I've had a lot of people at John Carroll that have noticed some type of talent that I can provide, and they've helped to grow that and given me opportunities that I'm extremely thankful for. So I really want to continue to grow that and take that into after graduation and into the workforce. I really don't want to be just thrown at a desk and kind of ignored. I want to make sure that I'm at a place where the person feels like they want me to be a part of the organization, even if I'm just starting there. So I know, especially at Vivid Front, where I'm just interned to go there, they showcased to me a lot of opportunity for growth and what I can start as, and what I can look through to going forward in the organization. So that was really meant a lot to me. And also a lot of those people have reached out to me, congratulated me after getting the internship and things like that, and reached out to me to just talk to me about what they do. So a lot of people that were willing to talk to me and make sure that I knew kind of the job that I was getting into and the people that I were going to meet. So definitely, I would say things that I really looked for in an employer was culture, mentorship, and just support in that sense of opportunities for growth. So I think those were some things that I noticed for sure throughout that process. And I'll let Caleb go from there.
Yeah, I'm going to add, honestly, seamlessly on to what you just said, Sarah. For me, it's a very similar kind of search. I'm looking for a place to learn. A lot of people talk about like, oh, work a job where you're either earning or learning, ideally both. For me, especially coming right out of college, the goal is to learn as much as possible. I'm not as concerned with like making money. I want to increase my capacity for money making over time. So it's like, I want to learn the skills that are going to be transferable for down the line to say, hey, this is really going to, be beneficial for you and help in that side. So I believe there's going to be, a time delay of, when I'm actually making X figures of money. So that's not what I'm focused on right away. I want to learn essential skills that can be transferred. So what I'm looking at is like, how do you learn that, right? My thought would go to immediately would be a mentorship kind of thing. I want to find a place where I feel like there are people who are willing to go the extra mile for me, just kind of take me under their wing, and then really give me opportunities to flourish on my own and make an impact and take that and kind of run. Like Sarah said, not getting stuck at a desk, not just kind of, oh, hey, follow the procedure or the protocol, fall into this box. It's like, I want to learn from somebody who is very successful at a company and working specifically with that, whether it's my boss or a coworker, somebody who I can really just sharpen myself with. is huge. And so I guess that goes even more into, it's not just a broad like, hey, you know, we mentor at our company. It's like, I honestly, I want to meet the person that I'm working for. Like, I want to feel them out and get an initial impression on them and understand who they are and what their expertise is and how we kind of click, even in something like an interviewing process. Like, that would be an ideal situation for me. Also, I would say in an employer, like, I'm looking for something that is meaningful. Like, the organization as a whole has some type of mission. It's not like, you know, there's something more to it maybe than just a bottom line, whether it's culturally, and, you know, touching back again to what Sarah said, you know, feeling like I'm making a difference, feeling like the people that I'm working with and the company that I'm working for and maybe the product or service that I'm selling, like really believing in that, is important to me as well. And so, yeah, that would be kind of, I think, you know, again, mentorship culture and really like getting to meet people, even on a, you know, getting to talk to people in the role and in the company, you know, one-on-one, ideally would be perfect.
Yeah, wow. Great stuff there. You really just encompassed it all. But for me, this will be my third internship, the third summer in college. So I've definitely gone through this interview process and interviewed with a ton of people. And luckily, this being my third year, I've got to kind of harness what I'm really looking for and pick and choose a little bit more. I think first off, what I look for in a company is strong DE&I. I think that is a good sense of their culture as well, like Sarah and Caleb have said. And I think too, with that, having a sense of belonging almost in the interning phase and kind of like communicating that when interviewing is very important. I've gone to interviews where I felt no connection and I felt like there wasn't, like they said, room for growth. And I felt like I was just going through this process, whereas some of the other places where I have ended up working made me feel like I belonged from the very beginning, from the very first email that I sent, which I think is super important. I also, with the growth, I think it's important to let young minds be creative in the workspace, even though they're new. I think that's something that I've found really valuable going forward. And then also a lot of community work. Two of the past places that I've worked for has really been good at working in the community and making sure that they're spreading awareness for their community, especially them being in Cleveland. So I also find that very important.
The old,
You're me.
I muted myself. After 2 years, I figured it out. Liv, I'm wondering if you can expand a little bit. You know, you talked about this sense of belonging. So I'm wondering if you can elaborate a little bit on like how companies have been able to communicate with you or give you that kind of feeling. What kind of things have they done?
Sure. So at least like from the interview process with the place that I worked with last summer, it was almost like a mentorship started as soon as I sent my first email, which was really enlightening because I never had an experience like that before. So as soon as I started my process, I had somebody that was designated to me right away as kind of my mentor through my interviewing process, which was really amazing. And I think that for young talent, it's important to make them feel comfortable throughout the process, or I think that they can get a little disengaged or a little opposed to the process. And then when joining the actual company, I think that right away they put me with other interns. They made sure that the interns felt that they had a say in what was going on and gave us actual projects and not admin work. And I think that was really, really valuable. It made me feel like the company valued me and valued my ideas, which was really important. And I think too, in a collaborative sense as well, I think since that company let me work with not only just like my HR team, but also the comms team and the sales team and the diversity, equity, and inclusion team, it made me feel like I actually belonged at that company despite only being there for 3 months, which was really nice. I think too, we went out into the community as well and did things together as a team, which also made me feel as though I belonged from the very beginning. But those were like the major things I feel that made me feel that way throughout that entire process.
Gotcha. Kind of going a little deeper on the mentorship portion that all of you either kind of mentioned or referred to, and I'm changing on the fly to make this a little bit more of a conversation with folks on the call here. Mark had asked about how can employers convey that that's something that they have in place or that will be valuable to you, when they're posting a job, when they're interviewing candidates. Like, are there ways that can be communicated effectively to you so it's not just here's some words?
So I can kind of jump in on that portion. I think that a really good idea that actually the internship that I'm working with now had when kind of attracting me to come on was that they actually set it up where I would be shadowing first, and they gave me 2 people that I would be shadowing and following them through. And so I would be working there, but I would be working closely with just kind of sitting in, learning, and seeing 2 different types of people with a job that I could potentially end up doing if I do well throughout the internship. I thought it was really cool because they started with like a shadow, a few weeks of shadowing, and then I go into a type of rotational program where I can see a lot of different aspects of what I could potentially be doing with my major. I think a lot of us come out of school thinking that we know what we want to do, but we haven't actually dug deep into it and done the actual work and the job. So it really meant a lot to me that they were going to kind of show me the different aspects of what I could do within marketing and development. And so I really like the idea of a rotational type beginning with a little bit of shadowing so I could ask questions and feel more prepared before I actually start working for them and contributing to their company. So I think that was a great way for them to showcase mentorship to me. And they also, throughout the entire interviewing process, they told me I could ask them questions at any point, and they told me that I could send them any type of email. And these were senior level executives within the company telling me to email them. And so I was talking to somebody that was a little bit higher up, emailing with them, and they were responding to me. So to me, I think that felt very much like mentorship because they were answering with questions and then, offering to follow up with a call or something like that. It just showcased that they were able to talk to me and they were willing to include me in that type of conversation, which in other places, it kind of feels like you just apply and then you don't really hear much back until you're hired and you kind of show up the day of. So I think that portion potentially helpful, maybe shadowing and including in the job posting or when they're interviewing you, that you have the chance to talk to that person and shadow them a little bit before actually starting directly into the work, I think is sometimes helpful.
To go off that, I think another way is building an entire, and shadowing can be a piece of this, building an onboarding process that you explain to somebody or a prospect, whether it's an intern or somebody that's getting hired, when they are, when maybe you're at the table kind of negotiating or kind of come to agreement, like, hey, we're both on the same page. We'd like to do this. Like, we want to hire this guy. Hey, we just want to explain to you real quick. This is how we do things here. We're going to send you, X number of videos to watch so that you understand our processes. And then we're going to have you go and shadow these 3 people or get on a call with these different individuals and have it very clear that it's just like when there's structure to it, when it's clear what the onboarding process is going to be and how, like, hey, and then this is going to be your coworker that's going to be checking in with you, once every other day to make sure that you're on this right page. Those kind of elements and the structure of it, I think, allows people to feel like they can fall into the flow much more easily of the company. Because I'll be honest, like I'm working an internship right now as kind of like a small business consultant, and it's great in the sense that they are treating us like we are a part of the team. It's not just like you're some kind of intern. You're doing work that's equally important to the full-time person that's next to you. But what's interesting is like trying to figure out, there's so much context to learn that it's hard to almost pick up like, where can I, get some traction or do something, because there's almost like, there's so much going on. So just kind of like simplifying or clarifying, like, these are the conversations you need to have. And here's somebody who will be checking in and partnering with you. That, and explaining that to somebody, a prospect up front when you're looking to hire them, I think can be a useful way to bring them along and make them feel like, hey, we have a system in place for mentorship.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. I think it's really just about clear expectations and transparency. At least in my perspective, before I even started, I had my like sponsor or mentor reach out to me months before I even started and said, these are the projects that you're going to be working on. If you want to start like thinking about it now before you even come in, that's great, because then we can hit the ground running. And then also, like, when I got there, she had me meet with several different people on several different teams that she knew that would be good mentors for what I was interested in. So I met with people on the recruiting team that would mentor me in that area. And I met with people on the DE&I team that would mentor me in that area. And they were my points of reference throughout my entire time there if I needed anything, because they're there to help mentor me essentially through the entire summer alongside her. So that was just really nice to know. And I think it calms the nerves of a lot of younger people to know that that's the expectation as well. Because I mean, if you're a first time going into an internship, it can be really scary. It can be like this big thing, like, oh my gosh, my first real job. So to have a mentor that's calming in that way before was so nice.
So then where, you have a lot of opportunities, you have a lot of possibilities out there for jobs and career paths and all that. So how do you go about finding them, or where are you looking, or how do you do research on companies once you kind of have an idea?
I think for me, when I was looking for who I wanted to talk to and how I wanted to go about it, I really value that connection with another person. So I thought having an actual recommendation from a professor or something like that to then look into a company was really helpful to me. I really like that type of networking experience. I know not every student has the opportunity to go through that, but I think for me, it was very meaningful, because then I actually felt like I knew somebody throughout the whole process and I could talk to somebody. And I also felt like someone was vouching for me the entire time. So it was helpful to have an actual recommendation from professors. So I know when I was looking for internships, I was like, hey, do you have any companies you think that I haven't known about because I'm not from the area, that they could recommend to me to then look into? I think it's helpful sometimes for even businesses to have that type of professor connection where they can be like, hey, I'm hiring. Can you tell some of your students that I am? Because that immediately will prompt me to looking into that business, because I know that the professor knows that person and they vouch that it's a good business and they could see me fitting in there. So I think that having that professor connection is helpful. I also really have been using LinkedIn religiously. I have been looking up for companies, using specific keywords on LinkedIn to look up people. And then I try to set up informational interviews before actually looking into that company, because I think that if I met a person from the company, and depending on how they interacted with me, honestly kind of impacted whether or not I continued to potentially apply and interview for that type of company or position. So I really thought that an informational interview through LinkedIn, that type of setup, I tended to go that route a lot. And I also sent out a lot of emails. So I really did emails and DMs on LinkedIn to then make a physical connection with that company, talk with them, and then I would ask them about their internship opportunities, where I could apply and what that looks like. So I really liked this physically, like actually talking to them first, because it kind of helped me feel more passionate about working for that company versus just submitting my resume to a bunch of different places.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement there. For me, it's connections. Like, the bread and butter is, it's people I know telling me, hey, what honestly for me is, I have like professors or people that I talk to, and I would encourage any business like to build that pipeline through the university, especially, we're talking about the Entrepreneurship Association, like leverage that as much as possible. I'll be honest, like the internships I've worked, almost all of them have been from personal connections in some way. A number have been from Doan. a number. One of them was from my coach. Like all these people that I know and that I trust, there are people that I go to and say, hey, I'm interested in consulting. And they will just send me forth like opportunities and ideas about where I could find something like that. So that's the big one is personal connections. Another one is like meeting people at professional associations, such as, so I try to make it to a number of entrepreneurship association events when possible. There's another one that's like the Stake Club, and those are just like, it's a professional organization essentially. Meeting people there and having conversations around the work that they're doing is really important to me. In person is huge. And then I would also say, finally, is a LinkedIn side of things. So yeah, that would be another one where I'm just kind of like outreaching people. But generally, I've been pointed in the direction of those individuals, either by somebody that I know, or I've maybe, heard about them through the grapevine or something like that. Like they have connections to people that I know in person. So the network is absolutely imperative.
You can, Liv, you can pick this up and, we can keep circling around about this, but how big of a role do things like, career services, I mean, at John Carroll, there's, handshake platforms that people can post jobs and internships and stuff on, like how big of a role do those kind of things play as you're thinking about internships, jobs, career, that kind of thing?
Sure, I can take this one to start off with. So for me, I think that the Buller Professional Development Program has helped me strive to get all of my internships that I've had. I utilize Bob, which is the head of that, probably too much at this point. He's probably like, please stop emailing me. But I do really take advantage of that program. And I will say to everyone, like, that is, I think, one of the most important classes that I've taken at John Carroll. I mean, I utilize all of the job fairs. Even if I have a job, I still just go to meet people and network and say hi. I think too, being in HR, I've kind of seen like the behind the scenes of going to fairs and things like that. So I know too that the people who are at those job fairs, John Carroll is what you'd call like a tier 1 school. So I already know that they want talent from John Carroll specifically. So I'm more likely to go to those things. Also with that, and the Buller Professional Development Program, they have told us to utilize LinkedIn as much as possible. And I will piggyback off of what Sarah and Caleb both said, that has been a huge, huge thing for me. I go to the John Carroll page, I go to the alumni section, and I find all the people that are in there in my major, and I reach out to them. I see what they're doing, where they're working, what internships they got to get where they are. And then sometimes I just piggyback right off of what they're doing. But even for my last job, I saw that one person, literally one person, worked at the Fed that went to John Carroll, and I reached out and I said, can you please help me get this get this job? And he was like, absolutely, just email me. I know all the people who are gonna, interview you, and I can tell you exactly what they want to hear. So I think, again, going back to the networking, BPD connections, I feel like if I wasn't at John Carroll and I didn't have those resources, that I wouldn't be getting the internship that I have this next summer.
So it seems like, I mean, for all of you across, one of the big themes is it seems like that sort of personal connection. I mean, at some point, not everybody can do that, but some sort of personal connection becomes very valuable, and maybe the earlier in the process, the better, because it can excite you and help pull you along, or it can put you off, right? To say, well, this isn't quite the right thing for me, but yeah, seems like that kind of thing. So, when you're talking to folks and when you're looking these things over, what kinds of things are you evaluating? Benefits of the thing, and not in terms of 401ks and the more traditional benefits, but what kind of benefits like that, work environment, et cetera, a little more specifically than culture, are you looking for or evaluating as important for you?
I think so far, especially being a student that's graduating fairly soon, I really valued a timeline that actually allowed me to prepare. I know that a lot of marketing internships tend to start a lot later, And I had several conversations even about Don't about this, where I was like, I'm looking for a summer internship that I need to have secured, and that application isn't maybe opening until March or April, and I'm literally about to be done with school in May, and that feels a little tight for me. So I was always looking for a timeline that allowed me to actually go through that process and know that I was going to actually have an internship and a job. And my internship actually was big enough to the point where they said that, if I did fine throughout the internship, I had the opportunity to get hired after school. So I think that that's really valuable to people going through that internship process. I know that other people said, we may or may not have a job for you, and that normally tended me to steer away from them. I'm going to invest a lot of time and 100% of my work ethic into this company. And so I'm looking for hopefully a job afterwards. So I noticed that I was really looking for something for that. So that also goes along with the opportunity for growth, because I wanted to intern there to get to know me and then eventually potentially work for that company. Another thing that even though like throughout COVID, and it is really nice to know that you have like a flexible work schedule, I really valued going in person. I just think that that will be a really good experience for me to learn and grow in the marketing field. So I really steered away from all kinds of remote jobs or internships. Like I did like ones that potentially had, maybe like a Monday, Friday work from home, or like some days where you're working from home, but I really was looking for an in-person component. So I was definitely evaluating that. I steered away from ones that were completely fully remote, just because it is pretty depressing sitting in your house all the time and you're trying to learn things as a young person in your 20s. I think you really need to be there to see it and do it. So I definitely was looking for in-person. I was looking for a timeline that actually worked with my timeline with graduation. And then culture, like if there was a few benefits that would be helpful. I know like I'm working in downtown Cleveland, and they put on their thing that it was free parking, and I was like, that would be really nice, because I'm broke, a college student, and free parking it every single day. I don't know if I would work in downtown Cleveland. So things like that just make a college student excited about things, where it feels like they know that we're in college and they're trying to actually help us out a little bit. I know some people are working potentially downtown and they have no idea how they're going to get downtown, and they're talking about going on a train or something to avoid parking and things like that. So knowing that the company acknowledges that we're young people trying to work our way up there, and so giving us some benefits that actually help us work down there and stay down there. So I think that would be a few things I looked at.
I would say like the benefits for me, I guess we kind of already touched on it, like a clarity of just knowing that there will be somebody who is going to be there to mentor me, like that I've personally connected with, and that I truly believe can teach me what I'm looking to learn in that given role is huge. Like that is the thing it's very hard to quantify. But when you have almost like that feeling of like, oh, this person is who I would like to be like, in, a couple of years, I really want to, gain as much from them as possible. That's a huge sense for me, very, very important. Another thing would be a flexible work schedule. I'm big on, like, I like to travel. I want to travel and kind of explore. And so having the opportunity to do that, even if it's not on, per se, like a given week, like I would have no problem working, for most of the year and having, maybe being able to take a month or 2 months clearly fully off, even if I'm working more of a traditional schedule most of the rest of the year, or if it's something where I'm doing a lot of stuff remote and I could be able to travel there, that would be important to me. And I could take that in a variety of different ways as well. And then another thing I'm looking for is just, I would love to work with, I enjoy being on teams where I feel like are successful. And so having some other teammates or coworkers that I feel like I can connect to and get along with. I mean, if they're my age, great. If they're not my age, I mean, that's not necessarily a problem either, but just people that are relatable and are fun to work with, are enjoyable, I think is a very important element to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking off of both those things, I totally agree with Sarah that I really enjoy being in person. I feel like I get so much more work done. I feel like everybody's more attentive when we're in the workspace, and at least for my last internship, I think it helps with like Caleb was saying, collaboration and relations on teams, which I find really, really important. Obviously, everybody loves a hybrid Friday. I get it. But I do like being in the workspace. I would also say, like both of them have pointed out, the people who are differentiating themselves through the interview process are people who upfront are able to answer your questions is like, is there going to be something for me after graduation? And that's something that now, being a junior looking for an internship, is something that I ask at every single interview. Do you see, if this internship goes well, do you see me staying at this company? Is there availability in this specific team at your company? Are you looking to grow this team? Like, what does the future of this team look like for you guys? Especially like me looking to get into DE&I, that's ever growing, and I want to make sure that if I'm going to be on a team like that, there's room for opportunity. I think the other big thing for myself is, will this company continue to help me learn and possibly help me continue my education? That was a really big thing when I was going through interviews. I always ask, like, are you willing to help people go back to college if they wanted to and get their master's and things like that? And I find that really, really valuable when looking at a company. But I think that's the only really different thing I had from Sarah and Caleb.
No, those are good. So yeah, transparency and sort of opportunity to connect and be more of a in-person setting and create some connections and relationships with people is good. And I would say too, on your side, right? I think at least at John Carroll, those are the ones I know. You guys also being transparent, you know, in terms of what it is you want and what it is you bring to the table and those kind of things. And I think that, you know, that helps for kind of both ways. There's a lot of, you know, there's a variety of people on this call from a variety of different organizations, and there'll be a lot more watching from a lot more organizations. But what's kind of your level of awareness of companies around town, of organizations like the Entrepreneurs Association? You know, there's other associations in town and groups of potential employers. So, you know, are you aware of these things? And if you are not, are there ways that these kind of organizations and groups and stuff might introduce themselves to you in a meaningful way?
So I'm not from Cleveland, so for me, I'm not very aware of the surrounding companies. So I definitely think something that really helped me was I actually went to one of the Entrepreneurship Association networking events, and we went to Saigon, and I thought that was so helpful because I actually got to talk to people from Cleveland and within my actual major. So I thought that was really helpful. One of the people there was actually one of the people that I'm interning with in the summer. So that was really helpful for me to meet her and talk to her in person and actually like continue that conversation out of that. But there was also other people that then exposed themselves to me at that event so that I actually was able to further up with them and ask them questions. I have to write this paper for leadership. So I'm really looking forward to using those types of connections to talk to them further for more information just about what they do within that field that can help me learn and grow as a marketing professional in the future. So I really think that those type of networking events where the person is there that we can go and network with those people is extremely helpful because I don't know many of the businesses in the area. I think I made a joke to one of my friends the other day that someone was like, "Oh, what are the big three marketing companies that people apply to in Cleveland?" And I was like, "I don't know. I mean, I don't even know like what the ones are in Pittsburgh. I didn't know there was like a big three marketing. It's not really like accounting where there's like a big four or something like that. So I don't really know what the good ones are to even look for that could benefit me. So through networking with those people, I was actually able to like talk to one of them. And then they're like, you know what, your interests actually seem like they really align with this other one in Cleveland. And then I had several more informational interviews from there. So being able to just go to events like that to expose us to actual professionals in our field, I think are extremely helpful, especially for people that aren't from Cleveland like me.
I will actually, again, second Sarah and say I'm not from Cleveland. So my level of awareness, I actually feel is is quite low. I'm not super familiar in the space of like what's happening. There's so much, and I don't feel like I have a high level of expertise in that. Now, with that being said, I do think I've been fortunate enough to, learn a good bit from the Entrepreneurship Association, to also, be a part of, I interned with and then received the benefits also of this professional organization, the Stake Club. And so kind of being in those spaces, you learn a lot of what's going on and you get to figure that out. So I'll say, yes, the organizations are huge. And I think the question was like, how could they introduce us, themselves to us in a meaningful way? I think hosting events that are more accessible for college students. I will say in the past, I think there have been some EA events that I've gone to that, students were maybe invited to, but I don't think a lot of students were super motivated to come to. And I think the more students that are there and getting to interact with, the immense talent and expertise that we have in the EA, the better. And so I would say maybe having more student-centered events where it's, hey, we're just coming here so that you can network with the EA and the students can just like interact with one another. Like having more dedicated events like that could be useful. I think also possibly just communicating out, goodness, I'm trying to think, maybe via a emails or personalized kind of email sort of system. And this is obviously, for the EA is integrated into John Carroll stuff, but just kind of reminding people like, hey, these are some of the opportunities or that are coming out of it. And maybe even adding in the language of like, hey, this is a person's story of how they've received benefit from networking through the EA, or making it a little more clear, like, hey, showing up to this thing really does have a tangible impact. Because a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm going to go to this event and I'm just going to meet, who am I going to meet? Like, I don't know what's going to happen there. It's very much an unknown. So giving a little more of maybe a story or a quantifiable like arc in people's minds to follow, I think could be a useful strategy to kind of market and get more student engagement.
Yeah, those are all great things. And if it makes either of you feel better, I am from Ohio and it's still confusing sometimes, the Cleveland area. So I totally agree with what everybody has said. I think that I've been fortunate to be on boards at John Carroll that have really exposed me to like organizations like this. So I was on SHRM, Cleveland SHRM, which is very useful, obviously, because that's just a huge network in general of people who are in HR that can tell you anything about anything. And then also being on Women in Business, I think that has also helped me so much. I'd been on it since freshman year and I'm currently a member still, but when people are involved in both of those organizations, I was more likely to look at them and reach out and be like, oh, wow, they're actually really concerned with like what college students are doing and what they want. So if that is any token to EA, I feel like just being involved in students' lives and asking questions and coming to events, I think reaching out to the organizations on campus, such as like SHRM, Women in Business, AKSI, things like that, I think that would provide a lot of traction and also involvement in that sort of capacity.
That's
One
good.
thing I'll also note real quick from like what Caleb said about like not that many people came to some of the events. Like I feel like I kind of used that to my advantage because there wasn't that many people there. So I really got a great chance to network. So I think it was really helpful having like a small group where I was able to really focus on growing my potential opportunities professionally. So maybe even if there was an opportunity that EA had where people could sign up to talk to people one-on-one, like maybe even if there was some type of like anyone on company within EA that wants to talk to students, maybe there's like a Zoom room type round table where you can sign in and talk to people one-on-one, because I think that one-on-one connection is really what we're all talking about. So it is really hard when you go to a big career fair. Like I just went to the last John Carroll career fair and it's like a Zoom in there with a bunch of people trying to talk to you at one time. That feels very overwhelming. And I didn't really think I made any type of meaningful connection. I did talk to a few people, but then it's just like, okay, well, where do I go from there? I gave out a few resumes and then I don't really feel like it felt very transactional, not very communicative. So I think having like smaller type circles like that where the student can really get to talk to a person one-on-one could be really helpful.
That'll be valuable, really valuable to planning some things. So I appreciate that. So if other people have questions, I know there've been some going on in the chat, but for people who maybe can't access chat if you're driving or you got kids climbing all over you or whatnot, anybody have any questions? We can kind of open it up for anything you're curious about, or they can give you some insight on.
I can start. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Sarah Gracious. I'm the director of the Cleveland Talent Alliance, which means a variety of things. First of all, my position is housed with Destination Cleveland, but the Alliance is actually a partnership of 11 different nonprofits, public and private sector businesses in the Cleveland region, and we are all focused collectively on attracting talent to Cleveland and retaining the current talent that we have here. So the three of you perfectly fall under those categories as college students, which is one of our audiences of focus. And this has been so informational. I just wanted to start by saying that. But I'm curious to know, and we've kind of gotten into this in questions that have been asked, but what would really make you stay here in Cleveland post-graduation? Is it a job with the right salary? Is it a job with all of these things you've discussed, getting you connected to DEI, mentorship? And are there resources that we can be creating for you to better connect you? And I know you've already talked about a lot of good examples and ideas, but I'm sure some of what you've talked about, you're envisioning jobs out of Cleveland too. But what can we do to keep you here?
I think that I can kind of start off with that because I know that I intend to potentially stay in Cleveland for a few years because my internship has supplied me with a lot of benefits and opportunities for growth, and that is what kept me here to take that one. I know, like I have told some of my friends, I don't really have intention on going back to Pittsburgh to work. I definitely wanted to go somewhere else. So whether that be staying in Cleveland or moving to a different area, I'm kind of open to it, honestly. And my family kind of jokes to me, we're like, we'll follow you where you go. So that would be the only thing that would have made me go back to Pittsburgh would be family. But so I think definitely, yeah. I think definitely it's a mixture between like salary benefits and opportunity for growth, because I know some companies I talk to were like, yeah, after you intern here, we're kind of a smaller company and I don't really know if there'd be a job for you. So if I went through that internship and they didn't know, I probably would have then looked to move out. So I think that if this company, they have shown a lot of opportunity for growth to potentially become a higher executive within the company where I could see myself growing professionally. I think a lot of us look to go to a different place to grow professionally. So if there's that opportunity for growth or to become a higher executive in the company that's staying in Cleveland, then I think I would be more willing to stay because I really like the job. But I think also to touch on what Caleb was saying too, if the companies have some type of like fun or events or something that keeps you here too, where it's a better work-life balance, I think I'd also be willing to stay because that's something that I value and I see myself starting a family later down the road and things like that. So once I start a family and choose to root somewhere, then I think that I would be more willing to stay as well. So if it's something that kept me, with all those tips, different types of work-life balance in life, then I would be potentially willing to stay. If that makes sense. I think that sounded a little vague, but.
No, really helpful. Thank you, Sarah.
I'll touch on a little bit as well. For me, it would I think immediately after college, there's definitely I would like to travel away. But what would draw me back or, make that travel less extensive perhaps might be something like community with the people in the company. If I feel like I'm working, my team is almost a group of friends that we're working towards a common mission, there's something remarkably satisfying about that. And so if a company is able to create a culture where it almost becomes, I don't want to say non-professional, but a little bit less formal. It's not just like, okay, we are coworkers. It's rather like, hey, we enjoy seeing each other. Like, hey, it's exciting to walk into the office and be like, hey, what's up, person X, person Y, and just kind of like have that kind of feeling to it. That sort of family-ish or close friend atmosphere would be something that would like keep me coming back, and that we're accomplishing something or doing well. So I guess it would be, you know, successfulness of the company, opportunity to grow in that community with people would just be phenomenal, like very, very attractive and very, you know, that's something that you could maybe grab people with during an internship, and they'd be so inspired by that that they would want to continue onward in a full-time position.
Yeah, I
Thank
mean,
you, Caleb.
I am from really close to Cleveland. I hope to stay in Cleveland for a little bit longer, at least. But I totally agree with what Caleb said. I was going to say something very similar to that because I think the idea of having like this really close-knit team is so important. I found what was really valuable in like building a team and feeling like work was more than work was being able to get out into the community and not always working in the office. I feel like that was so huge for me. Like recruiting from the office is great, but like my past internship, we went to a ton of fairs in Northeast Ohio and recruited there and recruited from those. And I think that that was a way that I was able to interact with my coworkers that I would have never been able to see them in before. Like to see them get excited to see these Clydesdale horses, or like being like, oh my gosh, fair food is my favorite thing in the entire world. Like having things planned inside and outside of work that's based on team building, I think is something that is so huge. And also like, Sarah, I'm sure that you can piggyback off of this too, but coming from like a sorority background, team building and like camaraderie is like this huge thing. Obviously it's a sisterhood, but like having that sort of sense, but going into the workplace is so valuable to me. I think too, then it's like, like Caleb said, it's more than just a coworker. They're your friend. They're somebody that you want to see all the time. And I think that is like something that I 100% would stay for.
I'll also add real quick a note on team building. I think like the notion of team building as a formal exercise, like we are going to enter this room and do a team building kind of thing, oftentimes doesn't work. I mean, we've lived it out our whole lives in classrooms where teachers are kind of forcing these team building activities on us. And I think with the flexibility of a company, that should never be the approach. I would much rather see a place where, or a situation in which a company creates space for people to have natural interactions. Olivia, you were talking about somebody getting excited about fair food or horses or whatever it might be, is fantastic. Like those are the experiences where people genuinely connect. So how can you create or design experiences where people do get to have those, it's not canned, you know, it's not forced, but genuine, just kind of like, oh, we're having fun interacting with one another. That's where the connection really comes from. And that's what's going to carry over into the workplace and create that environment.
And I'd also say, like Liv was kind of saying, we do sisterhood retreats, like things like that, even if it was like a work retreat or something that allowed us to do something outside of work that allowed you to build those connections, because we are kind of used to that being at John Carroll. I mean, this might be specific to our college in general, but a lot of our at least our leadership positions or work positions are built on connection. So I definitely would say that anything that can make it seem like the company promotes work-life balance, and it's not like you're just expected to go there, work from 9 to 5, not talk to anybody, and then leave. So what if the company offers some type of benefit or work retreats or something that allows the person to also care about their mental health as well? I think in our modern day society, it would really keep me staying in there at that company as well.
Sorry, one more thing before we move on. But I think too, a company and a team that emphasizes small wins is also, I think, something that I really look forward to, like in the workplace. So like, even if it's something small, it's like, oh my gosh, I think it's also just like about the positive reinforcement and positive energy as well. Like I worked for a company that would celebrate like everybody's birthday, like in the cafeteria that was there, or like they celebrated like a baby shower for a lady that was there, or they would put together a cookbook and people would go home and try each other's recipes, and like it's a conversation starter. I think positive reinforcement, things that are conversation starters, are so important to keep people, even just like in general, wanting to come back to work, not even just young talent.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else have any questions for? I know one question Mark put up. I'll throw it out there. This may be an easier one, but more appealing to be looking at maybe larger companies that will provide more higher pay, better benefits, those kind of things, versus maybe a smaller company that doesn't hit that level necessarily, but offers more opportunity for growth, more opportunity for maybe learning some different areas. Is there you're a data point of 3, but curious on your perspective there.
When I was looking, I always kind of strayed away from large companies, at least from my experience with, friends or other people talking about applying for larger companies. You start off with that big salary, but then it kind of caps there and it stays there. So a lot of people maybe don't potentially grow up from that bigger salary versus starting at a smaller company where you build more connection and it kind of allows you to grow and maybe gain more of that salary up there, and you have chances to expand and make more money. So I think that that's extremely helpful, doing more of a smaller company versus a larger one. I think I just normally prefer that culture, less about like the money side of it. But I think I was looking a little bit more for a good medium, because sometimes the company is too small that they weren't willing to hire afterwards, or there's not that much room for growth because there's only a few employees working there. So I did go for like a good medium where I could grow up within the teams and potentially make more money, get more responsibilities, lead more people, like grow into a more leadership position. And that tends to happen within like a good medium of a company, because I also don't want to be just a number in a company. It's like the same reason why I picked John Carroll as a school. I didn't want to be just a number. So I kind of want to carry that on into the workforce as well.
I have a feeling we'll hear a little bit of bias here, given the fact that you're a John Carroll. Other students at other schools, may have different answers, but yeah, go ahead, Liv or Caleb.
Yeah, this is the easiest question yet. Number 2 through and through. Yeah, huge bias towards it, at Carroll. Myself, I'll definitely say that, but I think the opportunity to grow is huge. But in real conversation at these larger companies, I think, I'll say this, I've watched my dad work at a company for, 30 years now, over, at the same place, just kind of, and that was like the strategy was like, you find somewhere, they take care of you, you take care, and you work together all the way through. But nowadays, I think there's a lot of, at least a sense amongst my generation, like many of these larger corporations will chew you up, spit you out, use you for what you're worth, and grind you into the ground. And so we're not idiots at our age. Like, what we'll do is we'll work for someone, for a year or 2 years, transfer jobs, take up a 20-30% increase in salary, do it again, cycle, jump again, cycle, jump again. And so there won't be any retention of talent. And then you're looking at, by the time somebody's becoming a good employee, it might be a 3 to 6 month onboarding process. So, you're getting a year and a half of good work out of these employees at these bigger companies. And I think that's just how a lot of people are approaching the game now. And so the attractiveness of somewhere where you don't have to do that, where you don't have to constantly be moving jobs, but also the ability to grow, to almost like earn the value you're providing, or earn what you're worth, I think is absolutely tremendous. And so, company 2 all day.
Yeah, I mean, I agree as well. Like you said, it's a little biased. I think, that being said, the first summer that I worked for a smaller company. This past summer, I'd say I worked for a medium company. And now this upcoming summer, I'm working for a pretty large company. So I don't have like that large company experience yet, but like Sarah and Caleb said, I don't want to be just a number. And I think that now companies are focusing on, DE&I, but like adding this B to the end, which is the belonging. And I think that sometimes, like they said, you can kind of get lost in that bigger company, kind of feel like you're just going through the motions. Whereas with a smaller company, you're able to grow more in community. And I think too, being in a smaller company and being able to kind of grow through, I don't want to say through the ranks, but in that way is just much more fulfilling. I think everything is more fulfilling when you have connections with the people that you're working with and connection to the company. And I think that becomes a little bit harder on a larger scale.
Makes sense. Okay, we got time for a couple more. If anybody else has anything of interest, that these three students, I know them well, and they're more than happy to be honest. So it's a good opportunity to learn live if you're interested. So any other questions?
I have a question. I don't from a student's perspective, I was wondering, when is the best time to start getting an internship? And like, when do you what do you suggest is the best way to start? Like, start with LinkedIn or career service or people or jobbers? Like, if you have someone who wants to get an internship but is not sure where to start, and also when is the best time to start getting one or looking for one?
I can start. So I really liked having an internship sophomore year too. I think that doing a more low profile type shadowing experience sophomore year, or just working somewhere at all. Like, I worked somewhere sophomore year and I kind of figured out that I didn't really want to be doing that. And I knew that before junior year. So I think that really helped me to kind of then choose something that would be more helpful for me junior year, especially considering I'm closer to graduation. So I normally tell people to just try to start a little bit earlier if they can, like sophomore summer, and then junior year, obviously. And then I have always been telling people, send out as many emails or LinkedIn DMs as you can to potentially set up those informational interviews. I normally started there, like I was mentioning earlier. Or if you're applying, I always said, like, apply on Handshake or Indeed or wherever you're applying, and then try to find the HR person or the recruiter and then email them as well. Be like, oh, I just applied to this internship. Do you have a chance to talk about the role more? Or like, just kind of put a face to a name. So I think that the best way to go about getting an internship and actually securing one that you actually really want to get, because I think a lot of people have an idea of what they want, and then they don't actually end up getting it, or they never actually get into contact with any person from that business because they just kind of threw their name in the hat. So I definitely would say doing more direct approach would be what I would say for students to do, and then starting sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I don't think internships ever hurt. I'm a bit of an anomaly per se with like my involvement on campus. It hasn't enabled me to take on maybe the largest workload internships. Like, all the stuff I've done has been pretty minimal hours per week, but it's because I'm doing other things on campus. So I think there's an important element of, like, you have to decide for yourself and determine what is kind of works for your workload or your schedule. And with that being said, if you don't have stuff filling up your schedule from like 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. most days, then I would absolutely encourage you to do like a lot of internships. And what Sarah said, the strategy, I mean, here's what I'll say. Email Doan and other professors. Like, if you want to get the internship, like, email those guys, and they send you great stuff. Read, talk to BPD Bob if you're in Boulder, and like have those conversations, and literally just reach out, like, hey, if there's a company that you're interested in, no matter where they are, send them, just find people who are in the role you want, send them a LinkedIn message, say, hey, I'm a college student, that's the golden ticket, and say, hey, I'm a college student, I'd love to hop on the phone and talk to you, because I think your role is really cool. I'd love to talk to you for, 15 minutes. You're going to get like probably an 80% acceptance rate on that message. They'll set up a call with you, and then all of a sudden you're talking with, 10 different companies. very easily. And, you know, you can easily turn that conversation into something like, hey, do you guys have any positions? And there you go. Yeah, nice. That's one way to do it if it's not from someone that you know recommending it already.
Yeah, I mean, I will 100% say, again, sooner the better. I had an internship that was like part-time going from my freshman into my sophomore year, and that made me so much more competitive after that. I think the more internships, the better. Again, like Caleb said, if you have time. I know that having that going into the sophomore, junior summer, I went to a job fair and said, you know, I have this experience, and they weren't even looking for somebody in HR, and I ended up getting an internship just because I had that experience. I think too, it helps, like Sarah said, to narrow down kind of like what you're looking for after graduation. So like for me, I did e-learning and talent development, which I knew that I liked. I went in TA, which I know that I don't like now, and now I'm going into this DE&I because I think that that kind of merges what I'm looking for, and I think that that was really useful for me. I would say that with me, my biggest resource was going to the involvement fairs and just getting my name out there, giving your name to people who even aren't even looking for HR, like I said. Also, BPD Bob has been at least my biggest sort of pinpoint person to help me kind of navigate what's going on. I think it's been really nice for me kind of to be on the other side of what recruiting looks like and be able to see what it looks like when the messages are coming in and things like that. And Caleb's 100% right. If you say, hey, I'm a college student, I'd love to have a conversation with you, that's amazing, because even if it doesn't go anywhere, that's still a networking source that they can look for you later. And again, I think just in general too, being at John Carroll, you're already a competitive student and people are looking and seeking you out. So that's always a great starting point as well.
And I think my 2 cents on this, Anna, is I think it's sort of the same advice as for employers and for people looking for talent, interns and whatnot, is trying to be a little more personal, right? So reaching out to individual faculty in areas of interest, or Boulder Professional Development and BPD Bob and other things like that. I think career services, and there's entities on campus that certainly help and create a little bigger of a funnel of opportunities. But sometimes the specific individuals that you get to know can be helpful. And again, from the employer side of things, if we know people who are looking for certain things and we understand the culture and the kind of opportunities and all that, then it's easier for us to kind of make that connection. So not to toot my own horn, but folks like me who engage with a lot of students and do so a little meaningfully, I think can often be that pretty valuable connector for both sides of the equation. So.
Yeah, and to add one more small thing onto that, go onto LinkedIn at the company that you're looking for, see what connections you have in common, and look to see who went to John Carroll, because I've done that so many times. Even if they're not even in the area that you're looking for, they're already it kind of expedites you in the process a little bit more, because they know what John Carroll expects of their students. They know the work ethic. They know that all of the students, since it's a small campus, are heavily involved in so many things that they're able to go to that HR team and be like, oh my gosh, I know that this person would be valuable. I think that you should interview them. And I think that that's also nice. Again, going back to the connection sort of thing.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap this up a little early, but one, I wanted to go ahead.
I actually, if you guys don't mind, I do have a question, and I'd be interested in throwing it out there if everyone has just a couple extra minutes.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm Nancy. I'm with S3 Technologies. I am apologizing now that I was a little bit late jumping on. I was running from another meeting, but and I'm driving, so but I'm glad I was able to catch as much as I did. And I recently read an article, and it was talking about the time frame for interviewing, and how now candidates are getting frustrated with how long the interview process can take. Is from your perspective, being in that position as a candidate, is that a deal breaker for you? And I ask because we actually have a pretty lengthy interview process, which is extremely intentional because we hire based on culture fit first, and we want to make sure that the candidate has equal opportunity to interview us as we are interviewing them. And it's really important that they also feel comfortable with it. We have found in the past when we make offers prematurely and don't complete our full interview process, that those oftentimes do not turn out to be long-term fits. But I also am concerned that we could be losing really good quality candidates because we do take such a long time. So I guess I'd be interested in, from your perspective, what steps in the interview process are really important to you, and what your thoughts are on like just a timeline for all of that as well. Sorry, that was a really long question.
This scenario, for my perspective, I can't speak for them too, but I don't really mind a long interview process as long as it starts early enough for me not to get stressed about getting an internship, because at that point, then I will potentially look for other ones to secure one, because I'm also a very busy college student. So I tended to want to make sure I had something because I didn't want to run out of time. So I know, like, as soon as January hit, like for the new year, I didn't want to obviously like be like too premature with like looking for internships. I was sending out emails and I was trying to connect with people to potentially get an internship. So I wouldn't have minded if that started earlier and then I was working through that process. But I also think that in order to keep someone to go through that long process, there needs to be a lot of communication of like how many steps there is and when you're going to find out. Because if you just don't end up knowing, then you think that maybe the company's kind of giving you the runaround, because I also know other companies that go through, maybe 3 interviews and that's good enough for them. But I definitely could see the concern of making sure you have quality talent. So going through a longer interview process. But if you are going to do that, I think a lot of communication is helpful so that the student knows what to expect and how long they're going to be in that process. Because if they're going through multiple and they're trying to decide, that might be a deal breaker if that process is still going on and they don't want to deny other ones because they just want to make sure they have one. So I guess that would be my thought on a long interviewing process, because sometimes if they start close to the summer and you have to not know right before, like if you're done with school and you don't know whether or not you have an internship, that's extremely stressful. So
yeah, thank you.
I'm going to agree. I mean, communicate the steps, make it crystal clear. Like, hey, this is what's going to happen week 1, week 2, week 3, however long it takes, and let them know, within as exact as you can be with, a high level of confidence, that that's what you're going to do and stick to that. I see no issue with a long process. In my opinion, actually, I think that shows me that the company truly is interested in getting this right. And I appreciate that. And it also gives me a chance, like you said, Nancy, you get to interview the company as well as the potential candidate. And so to me, call me crazy, but I actually would prefer a longer process because it really lets me feel out the company. I don't feel like I'm getting into something, that's half baked. And it shows that the company has invested a significant amount of time already into recruiting me. If I'm on level 5, level 7 of interviews, obviously they want me to be there. And if they offer it at the end of it, like, that's tremendous. I feel like I've accomplished something. And so I like that. In one sense, I would say if that is also, being done with such effort and intentionality, I would also say, make sure that offer for such an individual is good. So that, there's obviously negotiation process, but if the offer after all of that and you're like, this is going to be great, and then their initial offer package is just terrible, you're like, this has got to be a joke. You're kidding. I put all this time for what? And so I would just keep an eye out on that. But other than that, I think, the long process is not an issue in any way.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through a process where like it's been 3 months until I know, and then I've been through processes where it's been 2 weeks and, I'm offered a job. So I think it's finding that happy medium. I totally get from an HR perspective, wanting to really get to know that candidate and the candidate get to know you, just due to the insane amount of turnover that we're dealing with right now. I think that if it is going to be a longer process, like Sarah and Caleb have said, it has to be something where I'm involved in every single step of the way, and there's that complete transparency. I think it becomes a little bit, if the process is good, and like I said, if you're involved, I think it can be really great. But at the same time, I think it becomes a little bit harder to compete with some of the companies who are more willing to give out an offer a little bit sooner. I totally agree with Sarah that I know plenty of people who are starting to get to that like panic mode where it's like, oh my gosh, am I going to get an internship? And if it's like this 3-month period, they're not waiting because they're still interviewing at the same time. I know that for me, like I try and get it over and done with as soon as possible. So like in Sarah's like situation, like needing it by January, I like to have it by first week of December. I know what I'm doing this next coming summer. Like I'm not really waiting around. That being said, if my process is from September to the beginning of December, that's great. I'll stay on as long as I'm involved. But at the same time, I'm 100% interviewing with other companies at the same time as going through that process. And if I have an offer that is offering me all the same things that you're offering, but did it in a quicker amount of time, I'm probably going to go with this other company, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys. That was good feedback. And I do try to be, I'm maybe more transparent sometimes than I should be. I'm like constantly telling our candidates, I tell them from the start, look, if we have concerns, I'm going to tell you what those concerns are so you can explain to me, like, I want you to basically like debunk those, or if they're valid concerns, then maybe this isn't the right fit, right? So like, I'm pretty transparent through the whole process. So I do let them know like every step of the way. And then if we determine that somebody's not a good fit, I let them know that right away. I'm not going to make them wait until we're done interviewing. And you know what I mean? Like if we've decided we're moving on with other candidates, I let them know that right away. So I do try to be really transparent through the process, but I appreciate your feedback because I think everything you guys said is really helpful for me as I continue with that, because I was starting to get a little bit concerned that I was taking too long. And then I read that article and I thought, oh my gosh, like this is maybe I'm losing good candidates. And, you know, but I do feel strongly about finding that right culture fit. And like Caleb said, like in the past, I've always felt like the candidate appreciates that because they do feel valued before they're even a part of the team. But, you know, I guess I wanted to kind of hear from you on your thoughts on that whole process, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, one more thing on that. Just thought of it. But I think the more transparent you are with candidates, obviously, the more transparent candidates are going to be with you. I've been through this similar process where like they were pretty transparent with me and I was offered another job and I said, listen, I've been offered somewhere else, but I like how this is going. I just need you to let me know kind of like what direction we're going in, or I'm going to end up taking this other offer. And I think that if you're transparent at the beginning, they're going to feel comfortable telling that to you. Like the person that I was talking to and communicating with the entire time, I felt super comfortable with. So I was like, hey, we have a little bump in the road here and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. And obviously, if I got good feedback, I was like, okay, I'm going to stay through this process and I think I'm going to see this out to the end. Or like you said, letting them know, you know what, we feel like maybe this isn't the best fit for you. I feel like you should go with this other sort of opportunity. I think that's like super important too.
Awesome. Thank you.
This is a good question, Nancy. Well done.
Thanks. I didn't even practice that one.
I think you might have thought that one through quite a few times before.
I've been thinking about it a lot lately, so I appreciate everybody's feedback on that, though. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, part of what I'm going to do is kind of type all this up, you know, and share it again. There'll be a lot of folks who will watch this or watch parts of it, and we'll share those notes. We're going to try through the EA to do more of these kind of things, hopefully not on Zoom, or maybe some on Zoom, but to do more of these kind of things where we can connect employers and potential future employees. I think it benefits everybody, and to do it in a little bit more intentional and personal and meaningful ways. So for those attending or watching, we've made it very, very easy to get involved with the EA and come check things out. If you go to jcuea.org, it's a very easy process and not too painful in the pocketbook either, to get involved and check it out. So we really appreciate your time, Caleb and Sarah and Liv. We know you're busy and try and juggle a lot of things, and taking some time out of your evening is I think special and very valuable for these folks. I think they're going to learn a lot, and so we appreciate it, and appreciate everybody attending, and vice versa for the old folks for taking time out of your afternoons and evenings. Hopefully you got something out of this, and I will follow up with an email with bullet points, kind of capturing what we've learned. So, everybody have a good evening, and we'll catch you the next time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much. That was great.
You bet. See you, Mark.
Bye.